Hi there and welcome to this video on the GMAT verbal reasoning section. In this video, I will be breaking down everything you need to know about this crucial section on the recently redesigned GMAT exam and how to prepare for it. We're going to begin with a quick overview and then dive deep into the individual subsections, reading comprehension and critical reasoning. After that, we're going to discuss preparation strategies for each of the subsections and the verbal section overall, including the phases of learning, the timelines, and even some best practices. So let's begin. The GMAT Focus Edition, the current version of the GMAT, which was launched in late 2023, contains a streamlined verbal section, which now focuses exclusively on two question types: reading comprehension and critical reasoning. The previous sentence correction questions have been eliminated entirely. Now, this section consists of 23 questions that you'll need to complete in 45 minutes, giving you just under 2 minutes per question on average. Time management, therefore, is crucial here since both RC and CR questions require careful analysis. As you probably know by now, the verbal section is one of the three core sections on the GMAT, alongside quantitative reasoning and data insights. Now, each section is scored independently on a scale of minimum 60 to maximum 90 points. Your combined performance across these three sections determines your overall score, which ranges from 205 to 805. It is important to understand that the different combinations of verbal, quant, and DI scores can lead to the same overall score. This means you have some flexibility. You can leverage your strengths in one area to compensate for challenges in another while still achieving your target overall score. However, business schools typically review both your overall score and your individual section scores, so balance is still important. What makes the verbal section particularly important is that it evaluates skills that are essential for success in an MBA program. The ability to comprehend complex written information, analyze arguments, draw logical inferences, and make evidence-based decisions. With the right prep strategy, this section has the potential to boost your overall score, regardless of whether you're a native speaker of the English language or not. Now let's start with a deeper look at reading comprehension. RC makes up about 60% of the verbal section on the GMAT. In other words, around 12 to 14 questions across minimum 3 to maximum 4 passages. Now, these questions evaluate your ability to understand, analyze, and extract meaning from complex written material, a skill that's essential when processing case studies, research papers, and business reports in your MBA program. What exactly is being tested here? Well, RC measures several critical abilities. For instance, identifying main ideas and central themes, recognizing supporting details, making logical inferences, understanding the author's tone and purpose, and following the development of arguments or concepts. The test isn't just testing whether you can read basic English. It's testing whether you can analyze and engage with sophisticated texts at an academic level. The passages you'll encounter typically range from 200 to 350 words, but sometimes with as few as only 100 words or as many as even 450 words. But they also cover a variety of topics. You're likely to see content related to business concepts, social sciences, natural sciences, and humanities. Now, don't worry if you're unfamiliar with the specific subject areas. All the information you need to answer the questions is contained within the passage itself. No specialized knowledge is required. So what are the various RC question types? First, main idea questions. They ask you to identify the central theme or primary purpose of the passage. Specific detail questions test whether you can locate and understand specific information explicitly stated in the passage. These are the sitters of the RC section. Then, inference questions require you to recognize what is implied but not directly stated. In other words, reading between the lines. Then we have application questions, which ask you to apply the passage's concepts to new situations or examples. And finally, structure questions test your understanding of how the passage has been organized or how different parts of the passage relate to each other. And how do we approach RC questions? First, read the passage actively but quickly to grasp the main idea and structure. Aim for the big picture. Second, make mental notes of paragraph functions and relate them to each other. For instance, is this paragraph introducing a concept, providing evidence, or presenting a counter-argument? Such are the questions you need to ask as you're reading the passage. Third, when tackling the questions, always create a shadow answer based on your understanding of the passage, but then return to the passage for verification. The correct answer must be supported by the text, not just sound plausible. Finally, evaluate each answer choice by matching it to your shadow answer. Eliminate incorrect choices till you're left with the best of the given options. Now, in a similar fashion, let's examine critical reasoning. Now, CR accounts for roughly 40% of the verbal section on the GMAT. That's around 10 to 12 questions out of 23. Now, while RC tests your understanding of written material, CR specifically evaluates your analytical thinking skills. How well you can evaluate arguments, identify assumptions, and make logical decisions based on evidence. The core skills being evaluated in CR are fundamental to business decision making. Now, these include identifying the structure of arguments, for instance, distinguishing between evidence and conclusions, recognizing unstated assumptions, evaluating the logical strength of reasoning, and even determining what information would strengthen or weaken an argument. These skills directly translate to analyzing business cases, evaluating proposals, and making strategic decisions in your future career. Now, most critical reasoning questions present a short argument or scenario, typically less than 100 words, with a specific structure you should learn to recognize. You will usually see a conclusion supported by premise or evidence. Sometimes there's a background scenario followed by a plan or recommendation. Understanding these structures is your first step toward answering the question correctly. So, what are the specific CR question types? Strengthen questions ask you to identify information that would make the argument more logically sound. Weaken questions do the exact opposite. They require you to find the option that most undermines or casts doubt on the argument's conclusion. Assumption questions test whether you can identify an unstated premise that the argument depends on. Inference or conclusion questions ask what logically follows from the given information. Evaluate questions require you to determine what information would be most useful to assess the argument's validity. And finally, boldface questions ask about the role played by specific statements in the argument. Now, these are the most common CR question types tested on the GMAT. So what's the best approach to tackle these questions? First, read the question stem carefully to determine exactly what you're being asked to do. Strengthen, weaken, find an assumption, or some other such thing. Second, read the stimulus and identify the conclusion of the argument. Break down the evidence or premises provided. What facts is the author using to support their conclusion? Third, look for the gap between the evidence and the conclusion. This is where assumptions hide and where strengthen and weaken questions will focus. Fourth, predict a shadow answer before looking at the options. This helps prevent being misled by tempting but incorrect choices. Finally, eliminate answer choices systematically. Look for options that do not match your shadow answer, that are out of scope, that are irrelevant to the specific conclusion, that are opposite or reverse in logic, or that address issues not central to the argument's logic. Remember, in critical reasoning, precision is key. Now that we understand what the GMAT verbal reasoning section entails, let's discuss a structured approach to preparation that will maximize your performance. The key to effective preparation is following a strategic order. Here's how to approach it. First, begin with a verbal section diagnostic test. Now, this test isn't about scoring well, it's about understanding your starting point. The diagnostic will reveal your strengths and weaknesses, helping you identify which stage of preparation to begin with for each subsection. Don't skip this crucial step, as it prevents wasting time on skills you've already mastered. Second, your preparation journey will unfold in 3 distinct stages. Stage 1, learning concepts and skills. This foundational stage involves understanding the theory behind each question type and learning specific techniques to solve them. Don't worry about speed just yet. Focus entirely on executing each step of the solution process to perfection. Stage 2, mastering concepts through time practice. In this stage, you incorporate timed practice while maintaining a high accuracy. Think of this as climbing a ladder of difficulty. Start with easy questions, aiming for 90% plus accuracy in timed quizzes. Once achieved, move to medium difficulty questions, again targeting 90% accuracy or higher. Finally, tackle hard questions where you should aim at least 60% accuracy if you want to score in the 80th percentile, or 70% accuracy or higher if you're aiming for the 90th percentile or higher. Then the third and final stage would be the testing phase. In this last and final phase, you will take complete verbal section tests to build the stamina and mental agility needed for the actual exam. This phase develops your ability to switch seamlessly between CR and RC under test conditions and refines your time management to ensure that you complete all 23 questions within the 45-minute time frame. So these were the 3 stages of preparation. Make sure you clearly identify which stage of learning you need to begin your prep in so as to not waste any precious time. Now, the third aspect, timelines. If you put in an average of say 20 hours of study per week, the typical timeline for verbal prep is 8 to 12 weeks. Here's the weekly breakdown. Weeks 1 and 2, diagnostic test and stage 1 of, let's say, CR. Weeks 3 and 4, stage 2 of CR. Weeks 5 and 6, stage 1 of RC. Weeks 7 and 8, stage 2 of RC. Weeks 9 and 10, stage 3 of entire verbal, the testing phase. And then the last 2 weeks, 11 and 12, for final review and focused improvement on weak areas. Now remember, this is just a template. Feel free to modify this to suit your unique prep journey. Fourth, what about GMAT study resources? Well, remember, quality trumps quantity. The gold standard materials are the official guides and the verbal reviews published by the GMAC. These contain actual GMAT questions. But then don't squander this precious resource by solving questions blindly. Use them strategically during your stage 2 and stage 3 practice. Similarly, treat the official GMAT practice tests or mocks as valuable assets. Other than your initial diagnostic, save the rest of the mocks for after your complete preparation. They are limited in supply and provide the closest experience to the actual exam. Now, for comprehensive preparation, the IMS Princeton review also offers one of the most updated and effective programs for GMAT preparation, whether you prefer online, classroom, or self-learning formats. Finally, as a best practice, maintain an error log for tracking every mistake. For each incorrect answer, document the question type, why you chose the wrong answer, why you rejected the correct answer, whether you followed the correct approach or not while solving, and what corrective measures to take moving forward so that you don't repeat those mistakes. Review this log weekly to identify patterns in your mistake and make surgical improvements. So these were the 5 strategies to success in the verbal section of the GMAT. I hope you found them useful. Now, to conclude, remember, the GMAT verbal reasoning section isn't about grammar rules or vocabulary anymore. It's about thinking critically and analyzing logically. These are all skills you can build with consistent and structured practice. If you made it this far in the video, you're clearly serious about your preparation. So keep going, stay disciplined, and trust the process. With the right mindset and preparation plan, you can absolutely master this section. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with anyone you think will benefit from this. Also, feel free to drop any questions you have in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Best of luck with your GMAT journey. You've got this.